You're listening to the RMPodcast, the official podcast of Red Moon Productions. Here are your hosts, Brandon Davidson, Keith Cheatham, and Sean Sebastian. Enjoy.
Welcome to another episode of the Red Moon Podcast. That's everybody getting ready right there.
Yeah. I was talking about. I'm always ready.
We took a week off. We're back.
So's your fate.
So happy to be back with everybody. We're back, ready to give you all the hard-hitting Hollywood news.
I like news from Hollywood.
I'm one of your hosts, Brandon Davidson, alongside our normal new host, Sean Sebastian, and
Hollywoody.
Hollywoody?
That was its name, but then the Y fell off.
Oh no. The soundboard's already taking a crap.
What? What happened?
I don't know.
Oh
no, it's my headphones. That's why.
Brandon's stupid.
I thought the soundboard was cutting out. No, my headphones are cutting out.
Brandon brought a brand new soundboard, and he gave himself a heart attack just now.
I did, because I seriously thought I just spent a lot of money and it just went bunk live on air. And I was like, well, that's great.
You sound a little bit nasaled.
Nasal? No.
I kind of feel like we all do a little bit.
Really?
Sound like we got a cold.
Oh,
I have a cold.
maybe I got to adjust the settings a little bit.
Out.
You know, but hey, we sound, I think, much crisper.
That doesn't work.
That's not working. I hit it twice.
Oh, it's not. Because the sound's still down.
Oh.
It's working now.
You're killing me, Smalls.
There you go.
That was the one I hit.
one. Yeah.
Yeah, I hit it the first time because you got scared. Now it works still because
yes.
you didn't have it ready.
Ready? Well, we're ready for another great week. Here
I
on the Red
am
Moon
ready
Podcast.
because I missed not being here last week. We had some peeps even text us and be like, "Where's the show?" And we're
Where'd
like,
it go? I know.
We don't have one.
I got nothing to fall
We're
asleep
sorry.
to tonight.
Yeah. But we're back with a great review of a movie and headlines of things that have happened.
We got
and
tons of headlines.
and
Hocus Pocus 2's teaser dropped today.
It dropped. I saw it.
What?
Yeah, everybody's checking out the Sanderson sisters.
It was a
returns.
teaser. I was like, we'll see. I don't know.
You said you're looking forward to it, but the
I'm
teaser
cautiously
didn't do
optimistic.
Much.
The teaser didn't do much for me, but it was a teaser. There's not much in it. It's just one of those things where I'm nervous because how often do sequels to, other than Top Gun Maverick, most of them have been kind of disappointing. Ghostbusters and Spider-Man were good, but they weren't as amazing as Top Gun Maverick. And I feel
Agreed.
I'm like, I don't know if I trust Disney enough for them to actually do Hocus Pocus 2 good, but we'll see.
So it was a teaser. Was it just basically a picture of Sarah Jessica Parker's boobs?
Well,
that would have been good.
That's
now.
a teaser.
I mean, no. That would have been a teaser from the first movie.
Yeah,
Not now.
Good. No.
This one, it looks like Binks.
She's gotten
shriveled
older,
up.
but her breasts haven't. They don't age. They're silicone.
Well, that's what she would have you think. There's a lot of heavy CGI going on.
I mean,
there.
they show a little bit. I mean,
Okay.
it is, I think, like a minute long, a minute 12, something
of
like
her
that.
boobs. Yeah,
I'll check it out.
Yeah.
No. I will say the poster. I like the poster. They've gotten the imaging right.
Yeah.
But so much of any of these movies, especially when you rely heavily on nostalgia, it's so hit or miss, and I just do not have the faith in Disney.
Yeah, that's exactly.
And that
I just don't know that I trust them to make a good.
They've
sequel
done a
to
good
it.
job at ruining all their best stuff.
Agreed.
So-
And that's kind of what we're going to be talking about a little bit tonight, because Bob Chapek, CEO, that was in question a couple weeks ago,
Is
whether or not his
that's our main
contract would
headline?
be extended.
Yeah.
He's getting another 3 years.
Well, there's all kinds of stuff happening with Disney, so
Lightyear's officially a dud. We're going to talk about that. We got Netflix laying off people. We got so much to get into, but of
we
course
have a review first.
we do.
Yeah,
I want to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah.
Baz Luhrmann.
So we're just,
Boz or Baz?
I don't know.
I say either. It's tomato
Yeah.
on his name.
I'm gonna say Boz.
You say
I think it
Boz.
sounds cooler.
Boz. It might be Boz.
Boz Luhrmann.
I think of Bass.
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 Lance Bass.
Last bands.
Last
Lance
bands.
Bass.
Last bands.
Yeah, that's it. All right, guys. I think we're ready to get
Elvis.
into our review of. Yeah, I think it was #1 at the box office this week. Coming in.
I think they did finally when they got the full total. It edged out Top Gun because they were neck and neck all weekend.
Well,
It's
Top
about
Gun's
time
been out.
something.
It's its
Yeah,
fourth
you know.
weekend.
Yeah, it's been out for a while.
That's okay. Lightyear came in 5th, so
Well,
dropped 6. Well, we'll get into that. We'll get into that.
It never went to infinity. It just
But
went
it
to
is-
beyond.
It didn't even go beyond. It didn't go nowhere.
Yeah.
it's literally like
It went.
a piece of a piece of space junk just floating out there.
Yeah.
It's just drifting, and nobody knows what it is. It's just gone forever.
A few people saw it and they were just like, oh, okay.
But it will be interesting coming into the July 4th weekend if Top Gun will overtake.
I am interested to see how that does.
Yeah.
Minions
good
comes
point.
out this weekend for
Oh,
4th of
that's a big
July.
one, yeah.
That'll be a huge one. But
Yep.
it is funny because I think I do think Minions and Top Gun will probably be the highest two grossing this weekend. One, because Minions is a huge family film, and then Top Gun with 4th of July weekend.
Yep.
I mean, a
Patriots
lot of people
will get back out and go see it again.
Yep. So I could see those two being 1 and 2. Jurassic
Also-
World's done. Lightyear's done.
Sean, you have to talk a little bit about your vacay, but thank you for bringing back this wonderful amber ale.
He brought us.
Yeah.
It's delicious.
Fantastic.
I quite like it.
The red
What is
jacket.
it again?
Red
Can you hold
jacket
that up?
from
There's
the
a can.
from the Kiwina Brewing Company.
He's going to grab a can.
You want me to show it on
Yeah.
this one?
Yeah. Oh, there we go.
It's got the nice little red head on it. That's why I bought it.
That was exactly what attracted you
It's
to it.
Kiwina.
Yeah. Kiwina.
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 Yeah.
All right. We've pontificated enough. Here is none other. Yes. Our review of Elvis.
Every so often within the world of entertainment comes along talent that transcends the norm and cements itself as more than just iconic, but legendary. And few have achieved the status of Elvis Presley. The highest-selling solo artist in history, Elvis left behind a legacy that still impacts our culture and the music industry today. Elvis inspired millions, and his life was full of personal victories and hardships before his untimely death. With so many biopics made about historic and iconic figures, Elvis seems like a no-brainer. His life was packed full of events that make for an interesting story on screen. From his career itself and his infusion of R&B, country, and gospel, to his home life surrounding his stillborn twin brother, his mother and father, his relationship between his daughter Lisa Marie and wife Priscilla, from his time in the military to his work on film, his involvement in civil rights and passion for gospel to his downfall with depression and drug use, and even his being taken advantage of by his manager, Colonel Tom Parker. Any of these subjects could fill the scope of an entire film. Enter Baz Luhrmann, creative mind and director for films such as Moulin Rouge, the modern adaptation of Romeo and Juliet starring Leonardo DiCaprio, and The Great Gatsby. Luhrmann is known for his visual and musical flair on film, and the idea of him tackling an Elvis biopic felt promising. Elvis, the movie, follows the legend and the man throughout his career, portrayed on screen by Austin Butler. Framed as a story told by his manager Tom Parker, played by Tom Hanks. From the get-go, Parker is set up as the film's main antagonist, and much of the movie is about Parker's shady handling of Elvis's career and money. But the film touches also upon everything else I mentioned too, and a bit more, glossing over many details to fit as much of Elvis's life in as possible, and while the movie works as a whole, it never feels like a definitive representation of the iconic man. While titled Elvis, the film places a lot of focus on Colonel Tom Parker, and while he is an integral part of Elvis's career and life, there are times when the movie feels like it is invested more into telling Parker's story than Elvis's. Luhrmann's choice of framing Elvis's life through Parker's tale and highlighting Parker as the villain of Elvis's story is a deliberate one that could have been a unique film in and of itself. But it also never takes the time to set these plot details up as the purpose of the film. It uses Parker for conflict, often giving him the spotlight, but still tries hard to showcase that this film is about the scope of Elvis's entire life, so much that we have too many competing narratives. The major narrative of Parker, which doesn't become fleshed out until the movie's end, and several smaller narratives surrounding key events in Presley's life. We see his relationship between his mother and father, a brief spiel about his service in the military, a few nice moments about his budding romance with Priscilla, and brief mentions and nods to Jesse, but because the film doesn't focus on Elvis as a living, breathing man with dreams and emotions, no emotional points surrounding his life land as effectively as they could. Instead, painting him as a legend, a rebel, and an icon, which are absolutely all things he was. But these are also the aspects of Elvis the public already knows. The internal struggles and the deep love he had for the people in his life are the things that endeared fans to Elvis, not just his talent and rebel status, and these are the things glossed over most. Outside of the film's lack of deeper narrative, the movie does a great job of highlighting the aspects of Elvis it does focus on, with the things that land best being driven by Austin Butler's terrific performance. Butler delivers heart, passion, and emotion, giving a performance that transcends the stereotypical Elvis impersonator, but delivers on reminding us there was a real human being behind the status of king. Where the story fails to give us the human parts of Elvis, Butler's performance delivers. With the scope and magnitude of Elvis and his impact on the industry, Luhrmann's flair for music and film again seemed promising. But outside of a few sequences mostly at the film's beginning and end, the film is much less in your face than what Luhrmann has done in the past. And even his use of fusing modern music in a period piece doesn't lend justice to Elvis as someone who changed music. The extravagant cinematography and modern music could have been used to highlight Presley as a performer and someone who changed the industry, but instead doesn't really do anything to lift up the singer. The movie tells us Elvis was great, which audiences already know, but doesn't feel like it makes an effort to showcase why he was great outside of the things most hardcore fans will already know. As a whole, Elvis is mostly well done and will please casual fans and audiences, and maybe a few diehard fans as well. But overall, it feels a bit lackluster for a movie about one of the biggest names in entertainment to ever exist. I give Elvis 2.5 out of 4 stars.
There it is. 2.5 out of 4 stars for Elvis.
Yeah.
We're going to discuss it in detail here. Obviously, there will be spoilers. I don't know if we have to have that disclaimer for a life of a man that is well known.
Elvis is dead. Spoiler alert.
No, he's not. No, he's not.
He just went home.
You mentioned on there.
Elvis is not dead. He just went home.
You mentioned on there Elvis impersonators, and I'm one of those that believe that one of those out there is not an impersonator.
Oh. He's the real Elvis.
It is indeed
Elvis the
Elvis.
pelvis.
Elvis the pelvis.
Elvis the pelvis.
Keep your pelvis away from me. All right, let's talk about it. Let's do a deep dive. We gave it 2.5 out of 4 stars. I concur with 2.5 out of 4 stars. I was very close to leaning on 3.
Yeah, no, I do like the movie. Like, I'm not gonna.
Yeah.
It's not a bad 2.5 stars. I just felt there were things about it that I wanted more of, as far as like things in his life. I mean, they did focus like a lot on like the rebel aspect of Elvis and how there's certain things that like his manager made him do that he didn't want to do. But I thought those moments also were disingenuous in some ways, like relating to like the gospel music. I know we discussed that because Elvis was a religious person, and I feel like they were trying to make him seem like he was more aligned with today's views on certain things, and that all the stuff that people knew him for that were more traditional values were, well, that was really his manager pushing that stuff, and I didn't care for that kind of. But
I would agree. I would agree with that. We'll dive deeper.
Yeah,
Sean,
yeah.
what did you think of the movie?
I gave it 3.
Okay.
I actually enjoyed the movie quite a bit. I left actually thinking closer to 3.5, but after I thought about it, and me and the wife went and saw it, and we talked about it on the way home, and she noticed some things that I didn't really catch, and after we just kind of mulled it over, I decided to settle on 3, but a pretty solid 3. I would definitely see the film again. I'll buy it when it comes out. It was a very entertaining film. The issues that I had with it that ticked off that 1 star for me mostly had to do with the first half hour of the movie. I felt like there were too many different filmmaking quirks that I felt like they were trying to shovel into the beginning of the film to give it this different kind of feel than the rest of the film. There were moments where they used more modern hip-hop music throughout the film sometimes, but heavily in the beginning. And then there's a moment where they do a comic strip scene where they've got like the cartoon style thing jumping off the screen, and they did a collage where they showed 4 or 5 different scenes taking place, in little squares, and that never happens anywhere else in the film. The cartoon, the comic thing never happens anywhere else in the film. I get it. The beginning is about his childhood and his fantasy with Marvel Comics and Captain Marvel Jr. and all that kind. And it's supposed to show his imagination. I get it, but it didn't. I felt like, okay, this is how this film is going to be all the way through. This is the tone it's going to set. It's going to be kind of hip and fast-paced and going through. The opening reminded me, and I'm struggling with the director's name. The British director directed Snatch and King Arthur. Guy Ritchie, yeah. It started out with his kind of really fast flair. For
Which is
storytelling.
funny because that's Baz Luhrmann.
Yeah.
Definitely.
The beginning stuff I felt was very Baz Luhrmann, but you're right, it disappears.
After about 20 or 30 minutes, it rolls into a pretty solid dramatic biopic.
Agreed.
And that kind of, that jostled me a bit because I was like thinking, okay, here's how this film is going to play out. And I didn't really like it that much in the beginning. And then after it started, going into this deeper look and dramatic look at his life, I really found myself getting more enthralled in the film, and I really enjoyed it from there on. I thought I agree completely with what you said in the theater, Brand. The last 10 minutes
is phenomenal.
It brought me almost to tears.
Yes.
There wasn't enough in the middle to get me there emotionally, but I did feel like the movie definitely, I don't know how authentic it is from an article that Keith shared and then from some other stuff that me and Amelia read and things like that. It doesn't seem like the portrayal of Parker was 100% authentic, and I think the movie definitely tries to make Elvis into a victim of this guy when in fact throughout their careers together they were very closely partnered, and even in times of them fighting, it always came back around to their friendship and the fact that one of them was a Steve Jobs, one of them was the salesman, and the other one was the creative. And they worked together throughout their career. Yeah, there was liberties taken from Tom Hanks's character in stripping some money and doing, he was a snake.
He did have a lot of debt and did embezzle a lot of
but
money
Elvis
from
was Elvis wasn't perfect either. Elvis had a temper. He had a gambling problem. He had a drug addiction. Some would argue that the drug addiction was caused by his inservitude, as the movie kind of makes it seem like. But in reality, I mean, he was addicted to the fame more than anything. And I just think
that was the
they don't really show that.
And the tone of the movie that I thought kind of went south for me was, and Keith actually summed this up on the way home when we were driving back. He was talking about how I guess what left a bad taste in my mouth overall was that it didn't really nail who I thought was Elvis as a person, in the sense that you have this, I think, one-of-a-kind type of entertainer that existed at this part of American culture that literally was, I think, the actual ethos of what we consider to be a famous person. It comes from, there were more well-known people and absolutely famous people, but
really
no one of that stature.
Like that.
No one of that stature.
Yeah.
This was a world and global phenom.
An obsession.
Yes, that obviously the movie, to its credit, absolutely showcases that, but not outside of you already knowing it. Other than just already knowing the allure and the actual, telltale or the tall tales that you've heard in the legend that is Elvis himself. You already know certain beats in the movie, but when it gets to those moments of really the impact that you're looking for, whether it's his relationship with Priscilla, and even his love for Lisa Marie, and the fact that you kind of don't dabble in that too much. It's kind of a footnote. And again, I get it. You're trying to tell the extraordinary depth of this person in a 2.5 hours. And that's the funny thing. There were definitely moments where I was like, I wasn't bored at all, but definitely moments where I thought, all right, this is a little long in the tooth. I don't know exactly like when we're jumping from one part of his life to the next, because the pacing was a little, again, it has that Baz Luhrmann feel. It's jerky. It's all over the place. Yeah. Especially early on when you're getting to know even the young Elvis, he's trying to weave in like who he was as a teenager or a young poor kid. and where he gets the feel for the rhythm and the blues and the gospel, and then how that, and I was fine with that. But like you said, I think it was very disjointed in the way that it told that part, and how that part of the movie feels completely separate from the rest of the film, and how in the rest of the film and as it goes along, we just see all of these highlights and these pivotal moments in his life, but we never really get to understand the gravity and the weight of the fame, of who he is. And I think the one thing that you pointed out when we were driving home was you were talking about how it really made it seem like what brought him down and what led to the fall of Elvis was his love of love, like his love that I'm up on stage, I feel
needing to
I
be
need
loved,
the love from the audience that they give me, and I guess you could say that
I'd say there's certainly truth to that,
right?
But I don't feel like that was the only. I think it made him feel more self-centered than I think Elvis really was. Not saying that he wasn't in any way. I'm sure, absolutely. He loved
you have
the
to
fame.
be to be in the spotlight. You have to have that hubris.
But I wanted to see more of the internal struggle and personal struggle surrounding that, especially when it comes to Priscilla and Lisa Marie, because there's no doubt he loved his family. Now you can make the argument maybe he loved the fame more, but then I wanted to see more of that struggle because they put so much emphasis on the conflict with Parker and then other aspects of his life of him rebelling against this. Like how he's going to do like the Christmas special, or how he's going to do like they wanted to highlight all these different aspects, and I felt like I'm going to use this as an example. I'm a much bigger Elvis fan than I am a Johnny Cash fan, but I thought Walk the Line as a movie was much better job of like Johnny Cash's relationship with
June,
June and how all that were in his personal conflicts and his drug use. I felt like they nailed who Johnny Cash was, even though I think Austin Butler did a better job playing Elvis than Joaquin Phoenix did playing Johnny Cash.
Yeah. Oh, and I do want to underscore that real quick. I think Austin Butler
was fantastic.
Yeah. They could not have done a better job
it's scary.
Of picking out a diamond, a literal diamond in the rough. I mean, the fact that he was an unknown, I think they made the best choice possible. I was watching an interview of Baz Luhrmann and Austin Butler and Olivia, I'm going to butcher her last name, Diongo, I can't remember her last name, and Tom Hanks, and they were all talking about how Austin Butler's name came up, and it was actually Denzel Washington who called up Baz Luhrmann and said, you got to see this guy. He's a hard worker. He's blood, sweat, and tears, and he worked with him on stage.
That's awesome.
And people who were in the running before Austin's name came up were Harry Styles, Miles Teller. And I'm just sitting here. I'm like, you're going for
big name actors,
but you're going for big name actors, and an appeal, sex appeal that is already there. And I'm like, but I think that's the wrong move.
Definitely.
You want this kind of movie. Kid, you want a no name to step in there and prove it that they can.
He's not spot on as far as looks, but he looks way more like Elvis than either of those.
It's kind of funny. Absolutely. Like if somebody like Miles Teller would have gotten that role, you would sit through this movie and you would be like, wow, that's Miles Teller playing Elvis.
Yes.
This guy, you're like, that's Elvis.
Yeah.
Like, that's not, you don't know who he is. You just see Elvis.
And it could be a blessing or a curse. Because we know with these types of roles, it's like either you're typecast as that, but I think
it springboards you into something bigger.
Exactly.
Because I mean, people are already giving him Oscar talk, which is early, but
I could tell in his interviewing techniques, like, he's going to be a teen heartthrob. He's going to be one of those that, people just fall in love with. He's got definite, if Denzel Washington's sticking up for you, you've got some longevity.
Oh, he'll be in other things. Yeah, he's not, this isn't going to be a one and done deal, I don't think.
No, not at all.
I was just looking on IMDb, like, other than a very small role in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, he's only done, like, some television series and episodes here and there. Like, there's not this is his standout role, his first major role. So to have something like this as your first run, like that's
and to knock it out of the park, because he did. He knocks it out of the park.
I would hate to say, and maybe this is too much, but most of my star rating comes from the fact that I was thoroughly enthralled by watching him play Elvis. There were so many times where there were times, and I think that's that was what made me skeptical going in, because I know how Baz Luhrmann is, and I know, like, Moulin Rouge is a great movie.
Yeah, I love that.
But if you watch any Baz Luhrmann movie, it's spastic. It's very much like quick, fast paced, and that can be great when you're telling a story as lavish and as especially in the
something
later
that
years
is
of
over
Elvis.
the top, like Moulin Rouge, or even
I think it worked beautifully at certain points in this film, but then there are also like the slower moments where, you know, when he does talk to Priscilla. I love the introduction of Priscilla in this movie. I love how they just kind of plop you in the moment.
The introduction and the ending, like that.
Yeah. They're fantastic in the sense that you get a feel for who he is, but there were times where I was seeing him on screen and I kept thinking, let's go more into this. Let give me a personal conversation with Elvis that isn't just a stereotypical, this segues into the next, you know, climactic scene we're about to see.
Yeah.
You know, and it's funny because I felt like one of the huge negatives, and he was so, but Tom Hanks as Colonel Parker was just kind of like too much of the movie focused on him. I get he was in the antagonist. I get you needed
he was the
to
narrator.
have,
It was his story.
well,
really.
and that's what that's a huge negative for me. That was a huge negative.
Well,
for
I was
me.
gonna say, if that's going to be the case, if like the focus on the movie is going to be that aspect of Elvis's life, like I felt like maybe make that better known in the trailer for one, and two, get like Tom Hanks. You said was okay. He was fine, but it's like if you're really going to like make that character kind of the linchpin of the story, then you really you need an actor that's really going to make you hate that character, like that kind of gives you that like, okay, you're for Elvis and screw this guy. And I just felt like Tom Hanks never, like, he was fine, but I was just like,
well, and I actually think to some degree they leaned too heavy on that. There were not that they played it well, but there were too many moments where they tried to get the antagonist feel to be so presented that I'm like, but so much of Elvis's life beyond just these quarrels of Colonel Parker or how he was manipulating them, so much of his life is fascinating and exuberant beyond that.
Yeah.
And it's much worth telling from that perspective more so than from this one perspective of, oh yeah, I'm the master manipulator. I'm the reason Elvis was and is, but nobody will really remember my name. And I get that subplot of the film.
Yeah.
That was kind of the I think the point that Lerman was making towards the end of the film is, you know, nobody does remember him. They only remember Elvis, and that's who will stay in the history of, you know, time. But I still feel as though ultimately it just focused too heavily on their relationship or him. Like there were times where scenes were going along and I was perfectly fine with the focus on Elvis and, you know, how his relationship was with Priscilla or his parents. And yet Colonel Parker just, boom, pokes his head up in the background to say, I've got a part in this. And like you said, they set it up from the beginning as he's the narrator. He has to be telling the story. But I was like, it was just one thing, part of the movie I wish that would have been rewritten and not really done in that vein.
Yeah, and I kind of feel like, to piggyback off of that, with him being the narrator and him kind of telling the story, I looked at that fact alone in when I got upset about how they didn't dive deeper into certain aspects of Elvis's life because Colonel Parker wasn't there. So I'm like, if he's telling the story, he doesn't know the details of how he met Priscilla and what went on while he was in the Army, because he was in America and Elvis was in Germany. And it's kind of like, leave those things out a little bit. I can understand that because the storyteller wasn't there to witness it or to see it, so he doesn't have those details. But then the moments where he was there, like you said, it gives you this taste of this moment in Elvis's history or even in American history. And then you've got this, guy that kind of pops up, and they do lean on the villainous side of him, but then they make up, and it's kind of like you don't know if you're supposed to hate the guy or like the guy, because he does come up with really manipulative but good ideas to promote Elvis and to make them both rich. And it is kind of like, well, the whole thing with the International Hotel, I never knew about that. I knew that he was in Vegas for a long time.
Yeah, same.
But the idea that he was like, well, this place needs a good hit. They need a star, and they're just building, and that we can play here, and it's not going to cost us a dime, but you're going to make all kinds of money, and all this. But then, then it goes over to the part where he's talking to them about getting him this deal for $1 million a year for 5 years, and I'm like, okay, so did he tell Elvis that he was making $1 million? Did he take that $1 million?
Well, I think he did.
It never really
But what they
Tells
did,
you.
but then they show that in that same scene. It's like, but then he gets his cut.
He says,
and it's
"What's
about
my
the,
cut?"
It's the same amount. It's
yeah.
like,
Well, it's like your debt's paid off, and
Right.
you have an
Yeah.
unlimited line of credit and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, that's fine. But did Elvis ever know that he was making $1 million?
Right.
Because if he did,
And
I
even
kind of
in
feel
those
like he would have.
scenes, even in those scenes, I just felt like it was too tongue in cheek. It was too on the nose.
Oh, you knew what was going to happen.
Yeah,
you
and
knew.
just from the moment of like the very, and again, it's a very Lerman thing to do. I just felt like it didn't fit in the story that he was telling, or at least I didn't think it had the gravity in the story he was telling because it was so overly done. And like from the moment where he's hugging him backstage and he drops, or before as Elvis is walking up, he drops the napkin out of his pocket and it has the
deal written
terms
on it. Yeah.
And then he goes and grabs it and you see his hand slow motion grab it.
Yeah.
And then he goes and he hugs Elvis, and then as he's hugging Elvis, he's looking at the terms, and it's just kind of one of those things where it's so explicitly done.
Yeah.
It just didn't have the same weight as I felt like some nuance would have. And I felt like that's where I wished the story would have rested in most parts, is let's see the characters react to one another. A perfect example you were talking about, just in terms of the how it didn't really, I think, pay a great deal of concern to the values of who Elvis was. If you watch any kind of interview and any kind of one-on-one with Elvis, you can tell, he's a flawed man, but he's a religious man.
Yeah.
He wasn't just making it up so that he could be, a famous star. And I really do think that there were moments in this film, like when they're doing the Christmas special, they kind of scoff at it, or right in the middle of discussing it, then the the JFK assassination happens, and then it shows him depressed and down and out with Priscilla coming in to kind of, be there with him in the moment while he's watching the terrible tragedy. And it was almost like, but why is he sad in these moments? Yeah. Part of what justifies his feeling bad in these moments, and part of what justifies him going and doing the comeback special that he has and singing that incredible song at the end, was not just for some motivation of some political uprising. No, it's because there was deep sadness in America, and it was going through turmoil, and he was this linchpin of someone that everybody had a connection to. And he started off as this rebel, but then he very much became part of and cemented in our culture as I think a pop icon could only ever dream of being. And I think that's why you see him as popular as he is he's not just for one generation. And so I thought the movie kind of, in a lackluster way, scoffed at some of those details of his life and didn't really press upon the importance that they played in his life and ultimately who he was as a person. Yeah. They just tried to make it seem like, oh yeah, he was into it because, well, it helped him garner more fame and kind of get over the rebel phase and bring some new people under the tent, and he was just willing to do it for money. Yeah. And I was like, I don't know. I just thought that was a little bit, pointed in the way that they played that. Okay. But overall,
well, even
go ahead.
Because it reminds me at that point, but even like his military career, like I'm sure like his manager, there is truth to the aspect of, this will clear up your image and make you look like a patriot if you go. But they acted like this was this huge burden that Elvis didn't want to do. But when you heard him talk about like his service, he was always very proud of it. So I'm like, did he really like? I felt like there was a little bit more patriotism to Elvis as well than the movie played it off.
Absolutely.
Like he didn't want to do that. He was forced to do that. But then, like I said, he was always proud of being a veteran. So I'm like, I don't know if I buy that fully either.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But 2.5 out of 4 stars, 3 from Sean. Absolutely a movie that is worth seeing. I would say go check it out in theaters.
No, I'll watch it again, definitely. Yeah.
I think some people maybe not understanding what Baz Luhrmann, the types of films he makes, may not be expecting, because I'll be honest with you, you look at Walk the Line, you look at something like Ray. Those are movies that are definitely, you could love them or hate them, but they're very much a very dramatized but bibliography type film. Yeah. This one definitely takes the scope and grandeur of what you think Elvis is and it adds all different kinds of flavor that you may or may not like.
Yeah.
It may or may not be your
and
taste.
really, it is only at kind of the beginning and end. There's not a lot of it throughout the whole
middle,
movie.
yeah.
True, and honestly,
I mean, there's a few moments. There's a few, but most
right.
of the flair
most
is
of it's in the beginning.
Yeah,
most of it really is in the beginning.
beginning.
Once it hits its stride and you kind of know who Elvis is as a person.
Yeah, Baz Luhrmann's like, well, I'm done with this crap.
Yeah, it does. It almost feels like he's just trying too hard, I think, to communicate and engage with younger generations that I'm like, yeah, but this doesn't sell me on Elvis. And you're not going to make Elvis relevant today because guess what? You may respect what he did, but kids today are not listening to Elvis.
Yeah.
And it's sad to say, but you look at, and that's the other thing that I kind of didn't like about the movie. And again, call me a conservative rube.
Well, you are.
I am. But ultimately, too, and my last point is, I just felt like too many of the things they were saying, him pushing the envelope and being the rebel. Yes, he was, and no doubt that was part of his allure. Again, people were drawn to him. But it's not the same as freaking, again, nothing new under the sun. You look at people doing what they're doing today, but I'm sorry, freaking Cardi B,
What?
doing WAP and twerking up on stage or simulating lesbian sex at an award show is more than just shock value. That's just straight up hedonistic, behavior that you're trying to get views for. You're literally doing shock value for no other purpose than to get.
Shaking his hips is a little different from.
It's a little different
than grinding.
and
on each
I
other.
don't think there's any culture alive that would disagree with. Okay, you're always trying to push the boundaries of what you can get away with.
Yeah.
But part of what makes that fun is that there's boundaries to be pushed. And when you just get rid of all the boundaries and go completely hedonistic, now it's just pure like.
I don't think you can even compare because Elvis, and you see it in the movie. There's a line he's willing to cross for his show, but that's it.
Yeah.
Like it's not like he keeps one-upping the last thing he did.
Yes.
There's one thing that he's willing to do. He's going to do the gyration. He's going to do the sexual dancing and stuff. But that's what he saw from the African-American clubs and from B.B. King and from all these people that inspired his creativity. That's where he got in the Pentecostal church.
Yeah.
I mean, he got a lot of the shaking and all of that from watching the Pentecostal church.
Well, and I love, too, even the scene where he's talking to, I forget, I think it may be Colonel Parker or something. He's just arguing with him, and he's like, my mama's seen those moves, and she's okay with it.
She's okay with it.
Because it's like, he's like, it's completely innocent. And I'm like, I'm just up there shaking to the music. I'm just feeling the music.
It, yeah.
And it is funny because it's like, to me, when you see a true artist come out of the woodwork, it's not about just pushing the boundaries. It's about seeing something unique. And it's about seeing something or an evolution of something that you haven't seen before. And to me, that's a lot more of what Elvis was than just this, he's just this rebel without a cause and completely upsetting everybody. And yeah, I'm sure definitely back in the day, I understand. I mean, I have no doubt that was part of what, made him so not only popular, but put him as a bane of existence on humanity, and people were definitely claiming that. But again, when is that not the case? Alrighty, guys, but 2.5 stars. Definitely check it out. It's worth watching.
Yeah.
Give us your thoughts. You can always email us at RMPodcast at redmoonproductions.com.
I mean, I know this 2.5, but I will say there's been, I think, a string of some really solid movies outside of Jurassic World, not that one.
Yeah. We don't know about Lightyear, but we can talk about it.
Well,
I think that's what we should get into.
I was going to say, based on its numbers, and even its Rotten Tomatoes score is not what you would expect. So,
let's dive a little bit deeper into that. I throw out my words.
It's 12.
Let's delve into it. Here is our headlines. Let's get into them. Shaka Khan. Shaka Khan. That's Jimmy Morris saying, that ain't no sock in my crotch. Name that movie.
You can't handle the truth.
It's not that one. Y'all can't name it, can you?
Nope. I don't know what you're
Wedding
talking about.
Singer, John Lovitz.
Oh, yeah.
It's fantastic. Great movie. Just like Hustle was a great movie. It was a great Adam Sandler
There's
movie that just came out.
Been a couple movies like I watched 4 movies this weekend.
Oh dang!
Yeah, well, because I watched Hustle, Beavis and Butthead Do the Universe,
I still need to
Elvis,
do that one.
and The Black Phone.
Where is that on?
No, it's in theaters.
You went and saw it?
Yeah, yeah.
Some lady at work saw it and said it was freaking terrifying.
Well, I have
disturbing.
That's what we're gonna review next week, right?
We are.
Okay.
We're doing
I
Black
don't
Phone
want to
next
spoil anything, so I won't talk about it. But I do have a lot of 4th of July stuff going on next week, so I didn't know for sure when I could see it. But I've seen it this week, so we're good.
Sean, it may just be me and you this week.
I gotta go see that.
Yeah, because we got to see it for next week.
I won't be home this weekend.
Oh, you
I gotta
won't?
go pick the kids up from
Well,
Alabama.
see it during
I'll have
the
to
week.
go. We'll have to go separate because I do want to see it.
Yeah.
And then we have to. We got to
Well, that's what
review
we're
it
reviewing.
next week.
But I won't comment on that. But of the other 3, Elvis, Beavis and Butthead, and Hustle, I mean, I enjoyed all of them. So
I still need to check
Hustle
out
was great.
Terror on the Prairie.
Yes, I do want to
I
watch
haven't
that
checked
too.
that one out.
So,
Daily Wires movie
there's,
dropped last week. So
there's a lot of stuff out. Spiderhead's on Netflix. So, I mean, there's a lot of stuff
Spiderhead
out
was
right now.
so-so.
Okay,
So,
but
okay.
you, Chris Hemsworth.
It was
and,
interesting. Acting,
Miles
yes.
Teller.
Miles
Acting,
Teller.
yes. But yeah, the story's not original at all.
See, and that's what kills me.
If
It's
you've
like,
seen Ex Machina, you've seen it. If you've seen The Island that Michael Bay directed a long time ago, you've seen it.
Man,
Like you've
yeah.
seen the movie before. It's just, but that's a little aspects of it are a little bit different. But I will say, seeing Chris Hemsworth playing something other than Thor.
Yeah.
For the first thing in a while, that other than a military movie
Or a comedy.
yeah. it's solid. Yeah.
Okay.
His acting's solid.
That's good.
I mean,
That's
I
good to
did
know.
greatly enjoy Hustle. I mean, I'm like, hey, if Adam Sandler wants to make a bunch of dumb comedies that are
Yep.
terrible, but in every 3 or 4 movies he gives us something like Uncut Gems and Hustle, I'm
Yeah.
okay with
Well,
that.
and I was
Right.
going to say, I'll give Adam Sandler credit in this. He never fails, even in his what I think are abysmal comedies or most of his
UB
Netflix
Halloween
movies.
was all right.
Yeah,
it was
that was
okay,
good.
but he never fails to at least try something different.
True.
He has a varied range, and I'm not saying he's freaking, this oratoire of acting, but he at least tries different things, and he has different movies. And I got to give him credit for at least making things that are original. He just puts crap out there that he comes up with. And yeah, there's similar themes and plots, but the dude keeps making money and he keeps trying different stuff. He could have hung up his hat a long time ago and said, I'm done. I don't need to make any more money.
And I must say, Beavis and Butthead does a pretty good job of lampooning modern society. So,
Which is what its job always was
it's
to
worth,
do.
it's worth
good.
checking out, definitely.
That's on Peacock. Or no, Paramount Plus.
That's on Paramount Plus. Yeah.
All right, let's talk about headlines. Bob Chapek,
Oh, Chappie.
Disney CEO, has his contract
Bobby
extended
Chappie.
officially for 3 more years. What are our thoughts, guys?
We called it already 2 weeks ago when we talked about this.
Well, I had a differing opinion than you guys, but do you think, is it more so leaning on the edge of what I was thinking, or do you all think,
I think he fired his competition.
really?
I think he fired the
guy he
only guy
passed.
that could have taken his place once his contract was
So
up.
you think it was
And
more so
now-
because of that?
Yeah, and now they don't have anybody else, so they've offered him a 3-year contract.
Wait. So are you saying, though, that if he hadn't done that,
I hadn't fired that guy.
there would have been a close contention for his job with that other person?
I don't know. I haven't
I'm
read
forgetting his name.
everything about
Yeah.
it, but that's kind of how I see it. They still haven't said why he fired that guy.
Oh, they
and I'm
won't.
like, that's again that leads me to think that it was like, okay, you're coming for my job, and my contract's almost up. They haven't renewed it yet, which makes me think they might be leaning towards someone else, and you're the closest one, so you got to go. And now
I think
all
if
of
they
a sudden,
didn't want him, they'd still find someone else, or they'd hire that guy anyway and be like, "Well, you know what? You can have his job."
I don't know.
I don't know, because see, I thought about it, and I'm like, okay, I don't know if this is them saying, okay, we're going to double down on what we've already been doing, because
I don't
surely
think they can afford to do
yeah,
that.
because surely that's dumb. Because look at how Lightyear's faring.
Say Lightyear is a certified dud.
Yeah.
I don't
So
think
is
they can
them
afford
saying, okay, Bob Chapek's not going to go that direction, and now that we know he's not going to go that direction, we're like, maybe they've had a chat with him, and he's like, no, we're like, maybe that's part of that firing that guy, because that guy was on board. The guy he fired, they said, had done a lot of initiatives on making things more woke. So it's like, maybe they're like, okay, this is the first step in Bob Chapek saying, okay, maybe we need to clean house and not go that far.
See,
in the air.
that's what
Yeah.
I think is still the unknown. I mean, obviously they extended the contract, but it's clear, or it's not clear, what direction Chapek's going to pick.
It's not clear what direction Disney's going to go.
True.
Yeah.
Although I told Keith today, I saw it on freaking Twitter. It was the Disney Channel account. They have one for Disney Channel and then Disney.
Which is a
and
channel
Disney
geared at children.
Right. Disney retweeted the Disney Channel advertisement, which was a video celebrating. It's funny that they just released this video or tweeted this video like 5 days ago, because it's been Pride Month apparently all month. but they just now tweeted it, and it's a video literally showing all of this LGBTQ like property, like blatantly just all over Disney Channel, and Disney's retweet. They're celebrating it.
Yeah.
And it's just like, okay, you know, are they gonna still try to push the limits where they can, and
course.
only in the most tasteless way? But the thing is, I don't see this appeasing anybody, whether it's conservatives or your huge lefties that are all about, you know, LGBTQ. It's like, are you gonna be in this camp of, okay, we're only gonna push it when we know we can get away with it, and we're just gonna kind of downplay it in our bigger hits that we know we want most people to go see? I mean, Lightyear literally became, I think, this poster child for the fact that it shows a lesbian on-screen kiss.
Mm-hmm.
It's not for a huge portion of the film, but primarily that became the talking point after Disney came out and spoke out against Florida's Don't Say Gay bill.
Well, they had to remove the scene originally because for time purposes and because it didn't really add much and because of overseas markets, they removed the scene.
Now, they didn't add in a lesbian gay kiss scene just for the sake of a lesbian kiss scene.
They added it back
because of outrage.
Well, they stated that. Like, they said it was already removed from the movie before anything had happened. Nobody would have known it even existed. But then after the Florida outrage, they're like, well, because we feel like we need to make a stance, we're going to add that scene back into the movie.
See, and it became political.
And it did. Because
I actually read that there was dissension within Disney over the decision,
choosing to put it back in.
Yeah, that part of the creative team that made the movie said, no, you need to put that in there. That's why we made it.
It doesn't surprise me.
And maybe
they folded to it. But again, if you look at the box office numbers of this film, and if you look at the loss of subscribers to Disney Plus and a lot of the other things that are happening, their stock, everything, I really think it's at some point Disney is going to have to do a 180, and I don't know if this decision to go with Bob Chapek is part of that, or he's been at the helm while all of this wokeness has broke out, so I don't really feel like he's gonna change anything.
But see, I don't know because really the one who spoke out against the again, quote unquote, Don't Say Gay bill was, oh gosh, I'm forgetting the predecessor's name. Bob Iger.
Yeah.
He was the one that came out and made the statement on behalf of fighting for Disney.
Yeah.
And almost to say, no, this isn't just Chapek. This is the old guard coming in. We're speaking on behalf of Disney as well. Yeah. And it's like, I really don't think any of this was on their radar until they got internal pressure from these woke employees and then ultimately caved to it, feeling this idea that, they were going to... But I think it's completely backfired. And I don't know if Chapek is making pulling the strings behind the scenes to make sure this doesn't happen, because Lightyear is a clear indicator.
Yeah.
Clear indicator. Whether it's sucked or not, the fact that it's getting bad reviews at the same time, that it's not sitting at the top of one of the better performing, Pixar reviewed films, it's still, I think, in a situation of, but I don't know, we're teetering on the line of pushing these agendas out, and we're going to push them in these most, kid-centric films, and look, nobody's going to see it.
Yeah, and I think you need to point that out, not just the bad reviews, but the fact that people haven't been going to see it.
It didn't even release.
Was a terrible movie.
Oh, yeah.
It had terrible reviews, but it made its money back.
Yeah.
People went to see it.
Well, and that's the other thing.
Nobody's going to see Lightyear.
This came out last week, and it didn't even... It's a Pixar film.
Yeah.
It didn't even peak at number 1.
Yeah.
It didn't even go to number 1, and it fell to number 5 this past week.
For a Pixar movie to not release number 1 at the box office is strange in and of itself. It dropped over 65%, this week, which is also crazy. Nobody's gone to see it. Nobody wants to see it. So it is. You have to ask. It's like, Disney, what are you taking from this? Because right now they're making all kinds of excuses, like, we released our previous animated movies on streaming, and this is the one we didn't do streaming and theatrical, and families just don't want to go out and watch movies in the theater right now because they're used to doing it at home. And
the
I'm
theater
like,
was full
Yeah.
Sunday night.
Oh,
It was
absolutely.
full at that
You know?
time.
Well, I was going to say another huge thing is Paramount has been winning this year so
That's-
far
yeah.
at the box office. And you talk about Top Gun 2, which obviously just crossed the $1 billion mark. It
Yeah.
put it over the top. But you look at even movies like Scream that came out.
Yeah.
It's
They say
already,
they have the top movie in the PG, PG-13, and rated R.
I mean, Sonic the Hedgehog 2.
Yeah, Sonic 2 was PG, Top Gun's PG-13, and then Scream was rated R, and those are like the highest movies this year.
I mean, they've
in
been
those
knocking it
ratings.
out of the park. So
And
when
new
you've
graphics.
literally got and look at all of those films, not one of them. I mean, you look at Sonic the Hedgehog 2, doesn't even go near any of that woke junk. Nowhere near it.
Yeah.
Top Gun 2, nowhere near it. I hate saying Top Gun 2. Top Gun Maverick. It's not just a number 2.
Top
I mean,
Gun
it is,
Maverick.
but Top Gun Maverick doesn't go anywhere near it. And then you look at something like Scream. Yeah, there's probably some stuff here and
bit.
there, but it's more so again
But it's
playing
also,
off the horror mantra.
I would say
right?
Scream's also always been more like what's going on in the culture at the moment. So it's kind of
there's moments where it pokes fun too.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think it's safe to say that most people, I mean, look at Netflix. Their subscriber base is dropping.
Oh yeah.
See, I
just
was
laid off
going to
about- yeah.
mention that. I know that's one of our headlines, but that's one of the things that worries me about Disney and it being too late to right the ship is the fact that Netflix has taken steps to right the ship. They fired people. They said, if you don't like some of the things that we're putting out, get another job. We're going to cater to everybody, not just one side of the aisle. We're going to keep Dave Chappelle.
Well, and
we're going to do this.
And I think it's going to have some growing pains.
Oh yeah, it's good
Because,
time.
because for so long when you beat that woke drum, let alone the backlash you're going to receive early on from those woke warriors that want to
there's
just
probably
leave in
people
droves.
leaving because Netflix is standing their ground.
That
you're going to
and-
have people leave.
And I
but-
also think, too, that, again, they're up against competition from these other streaming giants. It's more so that from the fundamental purpose of why they're releasing an ad tier, why they're looking at doing that imminently. It's
Something
not like,
they said they'd never do.
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
going to push that off 2-3 years down the road. No. We need to make this a priority right now because they're bleeding subscribers. Because when you only rest on your original content, and this is where the wokeness comes back, they realize when they rest on just their original content, oh, wait, you mean people aren't just tuning in to only watch our originals that we flood the market with? I mean, we've talked about it on the show before. I think it was one of our huge headlines either this year or last year when we talked about how Netflix was releasing literal new content every week. And it's like, I guarantee you, other than
most of it was
Stranger
junk.
Things,
Yeah.
most of what they've released since Stranger Things just came out on Memorial Day weekend, and then the second half of the season coming
Comes
out
out this weekend.
I don't know what the hell they've released throughout the rest of this
Hustle.
year.
Hustle.
That was good.
Spearhead,
Actually,
or
that's-
Spiderhead, or
yeah,
whatever.
that's true.
Yeah.
And Spiderhead, I only heard through you, word of mouth.
Yeah.
But Hustle, I heard of Hustle word of mouth.
I
but
didn't
it
even know
pops
Hustle was
up-
coming out
Hustle
until
came
you
out
said
on
something about
Netflix,
it. Yeah.
and I saw it, and I was like, Adam Sandler's got a new movie
Yeah.
out? Like,
Yeah.
literally never saw any advertising
And with all the
for it.
crap tons of money they pay him, you would expect, they're going to always mention
Yeah.
and
didn't
advertise heavily when they've
know
got a new
anything
movie of
about the
his.
movie till you said something. So I'm just like, yeah, that's weird.
I mean, there's several great documentaries that they've put out recently, and stuff like that.
Well, they've
that
had some good
that draws
stand-up specials,
that
too.
draws people in. But the Ricky Gervais thing was.
It was
I
hilarious.
did watch that.
I mean, there were certain.
I don't agree with him on everything, but
No.
he was
Yeah.
funny. He
But
was
well,
funny.
and there's reasons you tune in to watch him and Dave Chappelle, and I do think they've got a corner on certain markets that isn't offered anywhere else on other streaming services, and it's gonna take time. Netflix has been the cream of the crop for so long. They're starting to get a wave of competition. That's hitting hard, and they're going to have to level off where their importances are and where their priorities lie. And that's going to take some time to figure out. And of course, they're going to try to make up for that a little bit with ad tiers, but also 2 people dying on set.
Yeah.
I have to correct that. It's not on set. They were actually leaving set.
Yeah.
But 2 people dying in a car wreck. And a Netflix attached film that doesn't bode well either for good publicity.
Yeah.
So Netflix all around.
At least
is-
nobody shot anybody.
It's true.
So
This was actually, I was going to say, this was a legitimate accident. Not saying that wasn't, but
he said a legitimate
I'm,
accident.
I'm not saying he did it on purpose, but I do feel like that was negligence. That
Yeah.
I don't think
absolutely.
this was a,
It's like
a
the
car
person
accident,
driving the
you
van
know?
was like, I didn't push the gas pedal. I swear I didn't.
There was no gas in the van.
it just-
I don't know why
there was no
it
gas
just
in the
it just
van.
drove on its own.
It's a smart car.
Tesla.
Oh
van.
gosh! But I did find it a little bit funny that the series that they were filming for, and this is terrible. I don't want to make light of two people dying, tragically.
not,
It was for a series called The Chosen One.
Yeah.
Which is about a 14-year-old who realizes he is Christ reborn.
Nice.
And I'm like, okay, I
Nice.
wonder, but I can only imagine, where this story is going to go for Netflix and
Yeah.
with the culture we have today.
It's good. I'm sure it's gonna be awful.
Yeah. Okay.
Watch
So
The Chosen on Amazon Prime. It's free.
yeah, and that was the other thing.
Well,
Let's
you gotta pay
piggyback
for-
off.
You have to
the
pay for
actual
Amazon
Christ.
Prime.
Yeah.
Not The Chosen
It's
One.
about the real Christ, not
Not a teenager trying to probably take puberty blockers because
Well.
he's the real Christ.
I mean, it kind of
Who's
makes you wonder,
genderless.
though. Jim Caviezel was supposedly struck by freaking lightning while he was on the cross filming that movie, and all kinds of weird stuff happened while they filmed. Think about somebody who pretends they're Jesus. What happens to them?
Let's talk about our.
They go to hell.
They get in a wreck.
It's like
What are we
she
moving
didn't
on
check
to?
yes. That's what it's going to be about. Jesus as a teenager. Oh gosh, I can only imagine.
Yeah.
Let's talk about a heavy hitter. I saved this for the last headline simply because.
Ezra Miller, Strange.
No.
that.
I know what
Please.
you're talking about, but I just you said last headline. It's
I
the
want to
last
see
written.
Ezra Miller and Kevin Spacey get together.
Oh my
God.
Could
gosh.
you imagine?
That would be the comeback for an ages. People would go
Oh
see
my
that,
God.
and then a surprise guest showing of Shia LaBeouf, just because he's
It's just
just
him.
missing.
It's him tied
Oh man.
to a chair, his hands behind his
Oh,
back.
man.
And Kevin Spacey and Ezra Miller just get to slap him with their. Never mind.
Oh God!
Sorry, they just get to slap him.
That's all we have.
That's it.
He's still got chaos. Warner Brothers might dump him. That's all you need.
Well, I had to throw it in there. It's in the link below. Yeah, you don't need to read much to know that Ezra Miller. I'm saying this
Derailed.
not PC or PC. However, Ezra Miller's a freak.
Yeah.
He's
Oh,
a
yeah.
freak. And the fact that anybody only in Hollywood could you get away with the things he's done, or at least
Oh yeah.
because I don't think this is a first time incident. What he's being
Well, no.
accused
How many
of.
times have he? No, he's been like how many? Like there's so many incidents he's been accused of. It's like okay, if there's that many,
What has he not done?
Yeah.
Right. And again, it
Except-
honestly,
how many people? Like how many fans he's tried to fight?
and this is saying something. This is kind of a compliment, and take note of this. It's almost like an unhinged version, and this guy's close to already being there. An unhinged version of Jared Leto. Jared Leto's already on the
Wow.
cusp, but Ezra Miller's just literally crossed that line.
Jared
he has
Leto
no
doesn't
boundary.
actually assault people. So.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, he sends them.
he's a
dead
weirdo,
animals
but
yeah,
he
I was
does-
gonna
yeah,
say
but
he
Yeah.
sends them pigs' heads with
He doesn't.
condom-
He doesn't.
used condoms.
He doesn't physically assault them. He might
Yeah.
mentally assault them.
he mentally assaults me every time I go see a movie with him in it.
Yeah, that's true.
It's Morbid time.
Morbid.
Alrighty, so no. Our last one, of
Go ahead.
course. I don't. This was not a roundabout way for us to just get this topic on the show.
Sure it
because
was.
we never like to be political on here.
I know your intentions.
But no,
are.
we have to talk about it because it does impact the industry, and I think it is a moral subject that has to be brought up. Obviously, the Roe v. Wade decision came down on Friday, overturning Roe v. Wade, the abortion precedent that was wrongfully decided 50 years ago. If you don't agree with us, fine, tune us out. That's okay. So be it. We're pretty open about our perspectives on this show, and we don't hide that at all. You should know where we come down on it. But let's talk about the industry and the media companies that are financially
Oh, it's
going
not-
out on a limb
Not just it's not
and
just
parading
media.
around saying they are celebrating the idea that they will pay for employees' abortions, women employees' abortions, if they are in a state or act or working in a
For-
state that doesn't
now,
For how long
have
though?
abortions.
what I read in the article was that they were only paying for the travel to other states to get
Depends
the
on the
abortions.
company.
Yeah, it does depend on the company.
Okay.
Some companies, I think,
I know with Disney they're only paying for the travel, but they're paying up to $10,000.
Yes, that's actually it was
like how
Netflix
much does it cost to
is
go
paying-
one state over to do that? It doesn't cost
Say, I
$10,000.
think Dick's Sporting's Good is paying $4,000.
Well, I stopped shopping
Oh,
at
yeah, I
Dick's
don't-
when they
yeah.
quit selling guns.
Same.
so-
me too. But yeah, now they'll give you
They're just dicks now.
$4,000.
True, that's so true. But no, and I think it was Netflix. They're paying $10,000 not only per employee, but even for employees' children's. And they said per
What children?
Well, sorry, touche.
You pay for the
Touche.
abortion. What child is there?
Yeah.
But they're paying for them per incident,
Oh wow.
$10,000 per. So this begs the question: you know, and I'm not going to get into, you know, this being a states' rights issue or even women's rights. I love that it's now being thrown around. I mean, suddenly everybody knows what a woman is again. Yeah. Great documentary that released that we reviewed here on the show that tells you what a woman is, but they didn't know that a month ago, and now they do at the end of the month.
Yeah.
Crazy how that works. But no, I wanted to talk about how, you know, how ridiculous and insane is it that these are companies, and it's kind of twisted in the way you look at this perspective, because the only way that I can read this is it's worth more for us to pay you in the short term to end your pregnancy and kill your unborn child so that you can come back to work for us and spend your days and your time than us either paying for maternity leave or in some cases these companies offering $10,000 per case. You could give someone a bank account with $20,000 in it if they have a kid, and they could raise that kid from their birth of their child to adulthood.
That's the thing that I find crazy. It's like, okay, you're going to shell out all this money, and I ask, how long are they realistically going to do this? Because how many people take advantage of it before places like Netflix, who can't even afford to pay their employees now, are like, we can't afford to do this anymore. That's too much money going out.
They laid off 300 people.
Yeah.
That's so they can afford to pay for people's abortions.
I have a feeling it's not going to last long, because as soon as any amount of people start using that, they're going to be like, we can't really afford to do this.
Well, and I think that's why it's such a bogus BS stance on these companies. They're only, again, touching on the outrage of the moment.
Yeah.
In these leftist...
They're trying to get brownie points.
Right. And ultimately, I think it's going to fail, because in reality, when you look at it, these people, not very many of them in their corporations are probably getting abortions. Whereas if they were to come out in reverse and say, we support life, and for every woman who bears a child, we do not want the burden of you working to also be a burden of you at home. So we're going to support you 100%.
It's like, instead of paying for your abortion, we will pay the fees to help a family adopt your kid.
If you have the money
That's
to do
what
that.
our pastor on Sunday said, like, now more than ever, as a church, as the church, we need to be praying and we need to be focusing on adoptions and helping each other afford and hopefully one day bring down the cost of adoption. It's ridiculous. It's $40,000 if you want to adopt a kid.
That's
There's
crazy.
10,000 kids in Kentucky that are waiting to be adopted.
And it takes...
That's just
I've
in
heard
Kentucky.
it takes, as far as even, like, let alone the waiting list to even adopt a child.
Yeah.
But then as far as the process taking forever,
Oh,
not
yeah.
only does
It can
cost
take
a lot,
years.
It could take years to adopt a child.
Yeah.
That's
And
absolutely
it is
asinine.
ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
So we literally have guard posts in place to limit people on adopting children and caring for them, but we literally have
what other choice do these mothers have but to go the abortion route? They know, oh, my kid's just going to sit in an orphanage for 10 years waiting to be adopted. And if they do, what kind of family are they going to? And it's like, so they make the simpler choice at the time,
easier choice,
I don't want to say, I don't want to say easy. I'm sure
word,
for some people that is a terrible, horrifying decision to make.
Well, the ones who have been raising hell over the last few days, those are the ones who I feel like would celebrate it, and they would just be like, absolutely have all the abortions you can.
Right.
They see it as a virtue.
There's less than 1% that actually have to have it because of their health. And
there's a difference between
a low percentage on the rape scale too.
If you want to make
mostly
or even life threatening.
If you want to make the argument for those, that's one thing. But using abortion basically as like
no responsibility,
as
a way out.
I can't think of the name.
Elective.
Word.
It's an elective, murder.
No, the word for like I believe what a condom is a
contraceptive.
Contraceptive. Thank you. You're basically you're prophylactic. You're basically using abortion as a contraceptive.
My bad.
Which it's not a contraceptive because it's already happened. But you're basically saying I don't instead of being responsible.
Plan B.
No, they do. They want to make it seem as if it's that cavalier. That it's just no. Well, it's an afterthought. I waited till my second missed period to finally realize that I was pregnant or take a test, and now it's just inconvenient.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to go ahead and just get rid of
it.
this.
Sorry, I do think that's wrong because that's why you think about what you're doing before you do it.
That's why it not only comes down to the moral argument that we can discuss at a different time off of the show. Because again, we've made our values heard.
The idea of these Hollywood companies paying they won't pay to help raise the child that might be desperately needed. They won't pay to adopt, but they'll pay for you to abort it.
And I will say, I'll withdraw what I just said, because you can't talk about this without getting to the moral heart of it. You can't discuss what these companies are doing, or even what the question at hand here is, simply because the very essence of our humanity does lie on this question of what is a life, and when do we hold it sanctimoniously? How in the hell do we sit there and act as if this is not something that is done out of, even if it's out of desperation for someone? Why are we not coming together as a society and, like you said, trying to do everything in our power to make sure that these circumstances don't have to be the only resort, the last resort for these women that are pregnant, but rather holding them up and championing motherhood? I mean, we just completely put a waste. I mean, that to me is what I think is so sick about these companies coming forward, acting like they're doing this huge benefit for society or these women. And it's like, we're going to literally, the idea of what the feminist wave was is, I'm equal to a man in terms of the company and in terms of the wave of the workforce. But yet now we're going to put that on such a pedestal that's much higher than being a mother. Or why not making the burden less, that it's only reliant on the mother's, the troubles that she faces day in and day out, but actually give her a way out of that suffocation, and actually being the mother that she can be, and giving her a career path that also works for her. But no, these companies don't turn to that. They immediately turn to, we're going to go this horrible route, and we're actually going to be even more in your face about what we support as a company. Well, we're going to give you no excuse to miss any days. We're not going to support you having a family or raising children. We literally want you to be a slave to our corporation, and you should consider that an absolute blessing.
Yeah.
That's what it says to me. Because that $10,000, $4,000, hell, you're telling me that you can't pay not only the medical bills of women who have birthed a child, and then also turn around and maybe even give them the blessing of $10,000 to raise that child? You know the immense amount of good and the weight that would be lifted off of a mother's shoulders, a family's shoulders?
Yeah.
But you don't want to cultivate that atmosphere. Why not?
Now they cultivate the hypocrisy. I mean, reading what Paramount said, it just kills me, because they this is quoting them. They said, Paramount will support, as we always have, the choices of our employees they make about their own health care. This includes the reproductive health and family building benefits. Where was that choice when the vaccine came out? Where was the choice of my own medical care, my own health care, when the vaccine came out? Instead, you forced people to get the vaccine, or they didn't have a job.
Yep.
So it's like you're okay with making sure people get to make the choices with their health care, unless it has to do with, something you want everybody to do, something you want everybody to get.
Right.
So the hypocrisy is disgusting.
And even that argument right there of conflating the idea of what a reproductive right is. It's like, again, we brought up rape and incest. Less than 1% of abortion cases rely on that as an outcome of having to abort the child. Yet, even then, with the majority being elective abortions, you're going to tell me that the reproductive right is that's the only right you have? You don't have the right to say no. You don't have the right of condoms. You don't have the right of birth control. All of these things are still available for you to truly go out and say, okay, that is my choice. Why is the choice now all of a sudden I have to kill this unborn child? Simply because, I was caught up in the moment and I decided to just press my luck and just go for it, and didn't realize that I was going to possibly have responsibilities or repercussions. And no, this isn't to say that, we're just aiming at women and men to get off the hook. No, because the woman that also births that child, the man has a responsibility as well.
Yeah.
The man also has a responsibility to pay child support, to be on the hook for that person. So no, it's not as if we're just saying, the guy gets off scot-free. But that's the way most of these, again, leftist fanatics would have you believe. That's the talking points of the day. And it's just, it's crazy to me that you have these family-oriented companies, especially with Disney.
Yeah.
I don't see how, with Bob Chapek now getting 3 years of an extended contract, And this being one of the things that they just came out and spoke on. This is a statement recently because of the Roe v. Wade decision that just happened Friday. And yet we're expecting Disney to somehow turn face and go the other way, go the other direction. No, Disney's gone.
Yep.
Disney has been eaten up by the woke left. Disney will continue to trounce on your conservative traditional values. They will not just have a kids film anymore that can just be a kids film. It's going to have to be inundated with all this woke ideology. You just wait. That's the reason why I'm not really looking forward to Hocus Pocus 2, because I don't know what kind of agendas are going to be hidden in it. I'm sure there's going to be jabs here and there or things that are just, subtly conveyed, but they're going to fit that agenda in. And that's what we've learned. And yet the funny thing about it is that you look at all of the successes that we've seen and we talked about with Paramount's films this year that have released, those that didn't touch on that, guess what? Those have been the most successful.
Pop gun magic.
Pop gun magic.
All right, guys, I don't know if y'all have anything else to add. I'm sorry. I ran the gamut there. I'm sorry.
I think we're good. We can move on to story time.
I went off on my tangent there. All righty, let's roll that over.
I'm as bad as hell, and I'm not gonna take this anymore!
It's story time, where the podcast members tell their stories.
Wow.
That was perfect timing.
I just felt like that needed to be in there.
Yeah,
Yep.
that
was Brandon in a nutshell.
That was it.
Right now.
That was it. Yeah. All righty, guys, let's talk about our unique weekly segment this week, story time.
Yeah.
A good day.
Bit my nip a little bit. My nip. Oh man.
Whoa,
Not that. I bit my lip a little
Oh.
bit, but I said I bit my nip.
I was like, how did you do that? I want to know.
I was like, I had it on camera. I didn't even see. Gosh.
He did it so quick.
Just
Going right after it. Let's talk about, that would be a bad day.
the day started good, then I bit my nip and it was bad.
A good day that
But yeah,
went,
go ahead. The topic, I've alady kind of said it a little bit.
No, that's a good day that went sour
A
or
good
turned
day that
around.
went bad or a bad day that went good, you know.
Let's talk about it.
Well, I remember this one day we were out on the water.
Yeah, I knew you were going to steal my freaking thing. Go ahead.
Just floating out in the
Yes.
boat. Dang it. And ever so often it just kept getting a little lower and we were like, this doesn't look right. And then the pontoon was going underwater. So
Last summer.
then there was another time when we woke up in the morning and the jet ski was underwater. But that day ended up going okay afterwards after we got it out of the water. So
Oh, that was a good way to round about
good
it.
way.
Yeah.
There's another time that we left Sean bringing the jet ski back by swimming because it cut out on him. But that was kind of in the middle of the day, so I guess it was good, bad, good. I don't because we
You all had a good time.
We at the end of the day we had a good time though because then we ended up watching Pulp Fiction all night.
Yeah. It's
I
just funny. All these
don't remember
good
that.
on
days
the
that
lake.
turn bad are at the lake.
I mean,
You
it's-
weren't
I
there
was
for
thinking
that
we
one.
I wasn't there
got
for
the
that one.
pontoon out of the water and rolling it back. We think, oh, this is finally over, and then it falls off the trailer into somebody's yard. And it's like, what else could possibly go wrong?
I mean, that was no doubt a comedy of errors that night. I mean, just one thing after
Sean's had
another.
other good days turn bad. You got attacked by those yellow jackets. That wasn't a good day for you at the end.
Did it turn around though? After, because that started out bad, really. Because that was
No.
early in the day, wasn't it?
No. This was like in the evening.
Oh,
Yeah.
dang.
He caught
Okay,
his bush on
no.
fire and
Yeah,
everything.
That
it
ain't
was.
good.
It was a good day of yard work until that crap happened, and then I had to declothe in the front yard and run for my life, and I got stung the next day when I picked my clothes up off the lawn because they were still in my clothes.
Wow.
The yellow jackets are
A-holes.
yes, they
suck.
are.
I've never. It's funny.
You've never had a bad day? That's a lie.
always. I don't know of any specific moment other than just to say that because this happens.
I know one, but yeah, I think you've already told the story many times.
Oh, maybe.
I mean, it was a good day until you got home and didn't have your Dairy Queen cup.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't know if you've told it on the show, and nor do you have to.
That
Like,
was still a good day. That was a fun day. I don't know. No,
I think you have told it on
Is
the podcast
this the day you went and
before.
broke up with somebody?
No, he took somebody.
No,
No,
it took Aaron.
a Subway sandwich, right?
Yeah, I was
Okay.
gonna take her a Subway
But
sandwich.
he lied to his parents.
and I
about
lied
it.
to my parents where I was at. I told them I was leaving work late, and I was actually about 5 minutes from home, and it was to buy me time.
Yeah.
Well, then I went over to Erin's house, and she came down. I was giving her the sub, and we were out on her back porch talking for a little bit. Well, then
for a lot of bit.
for a lot of bit. Enough that obviously enough time had passed that my dad had called me and he said, I don't know where you are, but you get your ass home.
Oh,
And when
nice.
he said ass, I was like, oh, it's serious. So then I was like, it was funny because I hung up the phone and I said, Aaron, I gotta go. So I hopped off and I immediately went home, and I got home to a dark house, and I walk in, and of course my parents' room's like right off to the left hand side, and I just hear their voice like, get in here.
Oh,
and so I'm like, oh,
You should have used your little get in
Get over here.
Your filter on that soundboard.
The new sound. But no, so I walk in there, and they're like, where were you? And I was like, what? I was working late. And they were like, no. We know you weren't working late. Where were you? And I was like, I went with Keith to go get a Blizzard at Dairy Queen.
Why? I don't know why he came up with that.
oh,
story.
I have heard this.
Because
Yes,
Keith,
I
you're
know
my
this
best
now.
friend.
I know.
Of course,
Yeah.
we'd hang out after work.
But I'm just like, I honestly feel like you could have, like, either way, you could have told your, like, it would
Not
have
in
been
the 5 minutes that I drove from her house. She lived close by, so it took me 5 minutes. That's why I thought I had more time than I did.
Yeah.
I was like,
that
oh,
makes
it's
sense.
it's
That
like
makes
right
sense.
across the road. That's nothing.
Yeah.
And then they're like, where's the bag?
We
I
ate
was
it in
like,
Keith's car.
Well, I
You
was
didn't
like,
think of that one,
I was like,
did
I
ya?
threw it outside before I came in. I was like, go get it. I was like, okay. So like I'm walking out there and I literally prayed to God and I said, God, please let me out of this. I was like, I don't know how I'm going to come up with this. I walk out and sure enough, on top of the garbage can is a Dairy Queen bag. And I thought, thank you, God. I thought he's
Divine
watching it.
intervention.
Yeah, he's watching
That's a
out for
Dairy
me.
Queen
Like
bag.
he understands that I was doing something innocent. He's going to pull me out of this one. So I walk in with the bag. And like as emboldened as I could, I'm like, there it is. See? Like, got it. My mom's like, funny, because I went to Dairy Queen earlier today. And so it happened to be her bag. And not to mention they don't put Blizzards in bags. So I just finally, and I was like, I made Erin a sandwich and I took her a sub sandwich. And they were like, go upstairs. We'll talk about this tomorrow. And I was like sweating bullets the whole time. I'm like, oh my! But it's funny because as soon as I got upstairs, I called Erin and I told her this whole story.
Yeah.
And she, of course, is just cracking up on the other end, laughing about this.
Because it's a hilarious story.
It is, and it's just like I don't know why. And I told her at the time, I was like, I should have just told him. Like, if I would have just called beforehand, and I think it was because it was a school night, is why they were pissed.
Oh, yeah.
But I didn't get off till 10 anyway on a school night, and so I thought they would have said no. And I could have just asked, like, hey, can I just take Erin a sub sandwich after work and come home? And I'm sure they would have been like, yeah, that's fine, but drop it off and come home. And I probably would have pushed it a little bit, but I wouldn't have been lying about it.
Yeah.
So, of course, they didn't ground me or nothing. I think they understood what I was in it for. I was trying to, give Erin a sub sandwich.
So here's a sandwich.
Sub of love. And now she's married and has a kid.
Yeah.
But not with me.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. Hey, love you, Josh. You and Aaron are a cute family. But no, it was just, I don't know. That was a day that didn't turn out quite that bad afterward. But there's so many of those days, especially when you're in school, that you're thinking, this is the worst day of my life.
Yeah.
And it's like you don't have the perspective of literally the rest of your life. And you look back on some of that and you're like,
That's
why did I
stupid,
worry
yeah.
about that?
Yeah.
That's so stupid. And then there's days now where I just have like mostly, and I hate this because I hate having this perspective. It's like weeks at a time. You're like, I want to get through a week because I feel like, oh, after this week, it'll be nice. Like, oh, we go into the lake next week. So I just got to get through this week, and you're kind of, every day is just kind of lasting longer and longer. They're not bad days, but they could be better. And they are once you get to the lake. Simple as that.
Simple as that.
Any other ones? Yeah.
No, Keith stole mine.
I'm sorry.
It was the lake
It was very
trips.
clear. When I actually read your notes this afternoon,
Yeah.
which I
and
normally
prepared.
don't get to do. They actually synced with my phone, and I was like, oh, I know exactly what I'm going to say.
I could think of anything else.
Yeah.
That was
That's
perfect.
That's a lasting story.
Yeah.
It's like
right there.
that pretty much like summed up all of ours then.
Yeah.
That was really all of ours.
Just, yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah. Alrighty, guys. That's awesome.
That's it.
That's our show for this week. Thank you all so much for tuning in. We're glad to be back. Obviously, we're going to be back next week after the 4th of July.
After the 4th?
That's right.
We'll be back on the 5th.
All that good 4th of July goodness.
Top gun
I hope
magic.
y'all are enjoying your inflated hot dogs and
Inflated hot dogs.
potato
Hot
chips.
What?
Well, I meant inflated in price. Sorry.
Oh, they
That's
are.
true.
I didn't mean inflated like you're eating a fake
I
hot
was
dog.
like, what is going on here? Man.
Check out all of our social media. Like, share, subscribe right there at the bottom of your screen. Red Moon Book, Red Moon Tweet, Red Moon Pics. And, of course, search for Red Moon Productions on YouTube. And, as always, that old-fashioned way of
What?
communication.
Is it? Can I poke it? Is it here?
I think, yeah, you can poke it.
Is it? Am I poking it
Oh,
now?
no, a little
Gently,
bit, a little lower, a
gently.
little lower.
A little lower.
But you're almost touching it.
Scratch
Right, oh, right there.
yeah.
Oh, right there. Oh, he's
Scratch
right
it.
on
Oh,
that
yeah.
little @ sign.
Can I read it?
Touch that.
Well, clear your voice.
Yeah, you touch it. It's. You could send us an email at rmpodcast@redmoonproductions.com.
Do the.
Wait,
You
I
want me
was
to-
going to say,
you want me to do it?
what is it again?
It's rmpodcast@redmoonproductions.com.
Freaking creepy as hell.
Like Satan. At least he likes our show.
It's like, no. That's the perfect time that I could just like,
Satan?
Hold on.
What?
no.
I said you sound like
there you
Satan.
go.
Welcome to hell.
We'll have to do that for Halloween now.
Yeah.
Yeah, we will. So you're going to see that again. Alrighty, guys, and probably many other times.
Many other times.
Thank y'all so much for tuning in. It's great to be back. We'll see y'all next week after the holiday. Hope everybody has a wonderful, beautiful 4th of July, celebrating this country
Day.
and your independence. Because believe it or not, you do have a choice to watch us every week. And we're glad you choose us.
We glad.
We glad.
We glad.
I'm one of your hosts, Brandon Davidson, alongside our normal new host.
Sean Sebastian.
And she's back! Oh, she's attacking him.
We hope you enjoyed this week's episode. For more reviews, previous podcast shows, and everything Red Moon, visit our website, redmoonproductions.com. You can also like us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter by searching for Red Moon Productions, LLC. We'll see you at the movies.